So, hello, Elizabeth, and welcome to One Meditation and Dialogue, where we have started this new project where we take time to have a dialogue with our teachers that come to the monthly sessions to get to know you better, to give you a space to share with us. And I have to say that um, I know you a little bit, but during this research and getting ready for this dialogue with you, I've learned a few very interesting about you.
Oh,
Um, a bit about your past and that you wrote a book. You've been involved with um, giving classes, courses at Harvard University. You've been asked for many different organizations to support them in that in that topic of gender and evolution, culture evolution, which is fascinating. I have to
mhm.
say, I watched a few videos and documentary, and very fascinating. And so, of course, for today, our intention, like I said, is a bit to get to know you better on your personal journey and bring also the meditation, culture evolution are coming together as being human through your passion, your work, which is dialogue, writing, coming together. So that's a little bit what we want to touch into. Um,
Okay.
so,
Thanks, Manon. I'm excited about doing this, and I appreciate your giving me and the other people who are guiding meditation on your platform some space to say hello to your audience.
yeah, that's fascinating that you've been from the beginning almost coming. And
Hmm.
so we're very, very grateful. This platform, as you say, it's only once a month, but it's evolving, and we got involved together in different ways in the project that you have with the One World Bearing Witness,
Hmm.
which is quite an event.
Hmm.
And we've worked in this way. We got to be in the same space, and so I would like, yeah, to start with I'm curious. From Harvard University, doctor of gender and cultural evolution, to now a dialogue practice, meditation, coming together beyond gender. Um, yeah, tell us a little bit your journey.
Hmm. Sure. I think you actually named it. But the I guess since I was very young, the question of gender or the roles that men and women have, or the ways human beings are distorted by gender expectations, by the roles that society asks us to play, that has been something that's been very was very clear to me.
Hmm.
And I think it has to do with my parents' marriage,
Okay.
which was not a good one.
Hmm.
Um, and there, though, that you could have two people that at one point loved each other, kind of twisted around these different roles, these different expectations, um, and not being uh, it seemed that we were set up in opposition to each other, which we are actually. The masculine and feminine are polarities. What does that mean? What does it mean that I am the polar opposite of my male partner?
Mm-hmm.
What could that possibly mean? I mean, being the opposite sex, or talking about the opposite sex.
Yeah.
It's like, opposite to what?
Hmm.
You know, are we not both human?
Hmm.
What does it mean, you know, if masculine and feminine are opposites, then how are we human together? I mean, that's when you get into my better half. I need to find my soulmate to complete myself, because because I am female and feminine and therefore am missing all these parts that go with the masculine.
Mm,
It's all
yeah.
it's all very distorted, and I think profoundly distorts our shared humanity. And so I mean I was an activist. I was a feminist activist. I did all kinds of I kind of went every pathway that the culture offered to answer this question. I ended up going to Harvard to study human development in order to find out, well, where is it? How is it that this gets set in? How do these patterns get created? Are they innate or are they not? Where would you interrupt to break this open? And I found that psychology didn't really have an answer, or the answer that they had was actually quite implicating. That girls and boys grow up in the culture that we create as adults.
Mm.
They are that the division between nurture and nature, you know, whether something is biological and or cultural, is not at all clear.
That's a very interesting point, exactly, because it's not clear. And still, what, how I hear you, how can there's no clear um, line between our growth and the culture in which we grow up in. This
Yeah,
individuation or this individuality and the culture. It seems that this is very, uh, yeah, we can't separate that.
no,
So,
no. I used to say, you know, I would never grow up to be a Maori warrior.
mhm,
And it's like, I can't. And although if I were growing up in New Zealand, in a village, in a community that was Maori, I would.
yeah, exactly.
So it's like, well, yeah, and there's also, I mean, it's also quite, it's quite mysterious. It's like, why is it that I grew up questioning this,
Hmm.
and someone like my sister is very conventional?
Hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, this is how to be. This is
Hmm.
what, you know, I'm a mom. You know,
Yeah.
this is my identity. Why is it that some of us question our identities and others don't? We don't know the answer to that, and psychology doesn't, developmental psychology or psychology at all doesn't really have an answer to that.
Mm.
And that's part of what drove. I kept going deeper. You know,
Okay.
there, as an activist, I realized at some point we could change all the laws and make that it's like total equality, whatever that would be, or everyone having the same opportunity. But if we don't change something at a deeper level,
Hmm.
the patterns will just replicate. In fact, if you look at the Scandinavian countries, at Norway, where they have some of the most strong gender equality
Hmm.
policies
Yeah.
and so forth in place, women tend not to the a vast or a large number of women only work part-time in order to take care of their kids.
Hmm.
So does that mean that this role of mother is the one that women prefer?
Yeah.
You know, is that who we really are, or is there something even deeper that's going on?
Yeah.
So I went from like, okay, how do we change the structures of society, to, well, what about the structures of our psyche? And and then I was like, no, there's something even more foundational that needs to be changed, that needs to be engaged with
Mm.
in order to create a different ground from which our humanity can spring. And that is consciousness.
Mhm.
And
So would
uh,
you say that from yeah, this discovery, wanting to go deeper, this longing. I could say, well, I will name it a longing. Like you say, psychology didn't answer that. The, 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 the system, the educational system couldn't answer that. So the next step was, yeah, discovering where can I go from there to answer my question.
Right.
And that brought you, from what I understand, to this spiritual path or questioning
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yes, definitely. Excuse me. Um, and at the same time, there was another thread in my life, and that was that I had a very powerful spiritual experience when I was 17.
Mm,
That I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. No one in my family. I mean, I was raised Catholic.
mm-hmm.
No one in my family knew of anything like that. It just was. It happened. I knew it was the most important experience in my life.
Can
There
you
was
tell me
something that
more
happened.
about that experience?
Well, it was. I was writing. I was trying to finish an assignment for school, where we had to write poetry, and I was like, "How am I going to do this?" And I was sitting. I snuck out of my bedroom and was sitting on the floor in the dining room, looking out the window at the moon, and all of a sudden, everything just sort of dropped and also came into focus in a different way. I recognized the absolute interconnectedness and oneness of all. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And what was interesting is that then I had this spurt of inspiration and just wrote all these poems, handed them into my teacher. And 2 days later, she said, could you read these to the class? And then she took me under her wing and she said, there's something special here.
Wow.
You have a gift, that become
Mm,
part of. She said, okay, become part of our literary magazine in the school, and da 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 da.
yeah.
So that was the beginning of a pathway towards writing, towards expression, but also recognizing that there was something beyond the mind.
Mm, yeah.
There was something powerful beyond the mind, and that there was a way in which one had to kind of let go of, or kind of drop the categories of thinking, in order to find something deeper. So I didn't put these two things together
Mm-hmm.
for most of my life. Um, but I think that the my confidence in that there has to be something deeper probably comes from that experience,
Mm,
because it was like I saw that. That's something that I
yeah.
recognize.
Yeah. And how did you continue the journey to find your way to meditation? And yeah.
Well, I mean, I meditation came in a bunch of different ways. A friend taught me, was a Zen nun, and taught me Zen meditation. But actually, it was that I'm I met Andrew Cohen in his community, because
Mm-hmm.
through a friend, and I was and we did a lot of practice there, and it was. I became interested in him and his work, because he said that he was interested in taking a group of women to enlightenment together. I didn't know what that meant, really. What is enlightenment? I was not interested in becoming enlightened. I never was.
Yeah.
But that he wanted to take a group of women into some different fundamental relationship to life that I understood, and to do it together.
Yeah.
And that was very powerful to me.
Which
And
also I believe that happened, right?
yeah,
You had a very powerful experience as a women's circle, and as
yes,
well, I think the men. Yeah.
yes.
And what was that exactly? That's
Well,
yeah.
that was the recognition that who we are springs from the same source. that it's a fundamental position of non-separation. It's a recognition that there is a ground. There's the ground of being, of course, which is what we touch into in meditation, which we open to in meditation, but that actually in life can be a living intelligence between us. And that was a very, very powerful experience and a very important experience.
Right.
It, of course, it made one feel fantastic, but that's not the important thing.
Mm.
The important thing was that it cut through the kinds of mental and emotional divisions that we create between each other. And it provided a different ground for relationship between women,
Yeah,
and therefore relationship between women and men.
that's beautiful. And I resonate and relate so much to what you're saying. And as soon the question that comes, or the question I would say, would culture, we are all embedded in a culture, and we cannot separate ourselves from that. And as much as I have a longing to awaken or to do my part in evolution, to help human being become more conscious and awake, how do we marry those two? I mean, in that specific experience, for example, everybody was, let's say, had the same intention. We're all walking towards a same intention. How do we marry this day-to-day life in our surrounding with whatever we do, job, family, relationship, to this deeper longing? Because I do believe, and I'm sure you do, that everybody somehow has this intention. Some more clearly, less.
I think some people are very far away from it, but I
Mm-hmm.
think, but most people probably who come to one meditation are feel this longing. And what is that longing for?
Mm-hmm.
What is that longing about? And that longing is, I would say, is generally about separation. It's about it's a longing toward ultimate connection, ultimate creation, um, being 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 not separate from the life process, from the mystery of life, being an expression of that,
Yes.
allowing that to take over one's motive for being. But I would come back to your question
Mm-hmm.
in a different way. I think that um, I would say that we will never change culture as individuals.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
That if I am really
Mm-hmm.
ensconced in and you know holding to my position as a separate individual and looking out for my journey,
Mm-hmm.
looking out for my personal experience, wanting to feel better, wanting to heal myself,
Yeah.
feeling this is the only way that I'm going to be able to do X. I'm not ready yet because I need to do this and that and the other thing to heal myself, to feel better, to da 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 da. If we're in that mode, it won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that powerful things don't happen in context of healing or psychotherapy or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but the fundamental frame of reference is separation.
Yeah.
And the longing is about connection. The longing is about connection, and yet yet we're hanging on to my separate self,
Yeah.
or what is my journey. The reason why the collective or dialogue is so important to culture change is that it is built on a foundation of non-separation, of togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
We are in dialogue in this right now in a way that where neither of us that where we have to be in this together in order to create something. It's not, you're not coming at me with an agenda. I mean, you want me to speak and so forth, but you're not taking a position of separation from me. We're
Mm.
trying to find something out together. It happens to be about my life, but it also holds the questions that you have.
Mm.
And it's from that togetherness that culture is created. Culture is a collective.
Yes. Mm.
And if one insists on my own individual interior experience as the thing that I'm protecting and looking at and whatever,
Mm.
then that potential for something different to manifest between us is sorely limited.
Mm. Correct. There's something that comes to mind, and I remember listening to Don Beck and the evolution of culture, um, and I think what's his name? I can't remember. Anyway, there's a philosopher that said, Ken Wilber, sorry. He says humanity is about at teenager level, so to speak, and we are going into adulthood as human. Um, and it's quite a big leap, right,
Mhm.
to make. And it sounds to me like this separation, this me separation, is that level of when we're a teenager, we're looking, where do I belong, where do I fit in, who am I, and so on and so forth. And I don't know your thoughts about that, but this is something that always, when I heard him the first time, I thought, wow, this is huge,
Mm.
but it resonates somehow.
Mhm.
You see, in general culture, like it's all about me, and
Mhm.
yet we need to make the leap into a connection that is so unknown. We have
Mhm.
to free ourselves from that.
Mhm.
um
Yeah,
yeah.
and that will take more individuation. I mean, what you're talking about is the process of individuation.
Mm-hmm.
And beginning there are beginning more primitive stages of it, like this is my identity, or I remember a friend's daughter at I think 12 or 13 was like, no, I don't eat potatoes because that's who I am,
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm sure by now she's in her 30s that she's,
Yeah.
it's like potatoes are not the defining aspect of who she is.
Yeah.
But there are very superficial ways of marking identity, and there are deeper ones of creating identity. But the process that we're talking about is the process of individuation.
Mm-hmm.
How do I become a self-responsible person? How do I become someone who is able to reflect on my motives,
Mm-hmm.
who is able to live according to standards that I create for myself and are not just given to me by, teachers and authorities in the culture. I mean, this is part of what is, I think, irritating people about COVID. It's like, are we children
Mm-hmm.
who need to be told what to do, or are we adults who can, with valid information, be able to make our own decisions? Or is it too complicated, and some fiat has to come down and say, okay, everybody, you're going to do this?
Yeah.
Um, because we as adults we inhabit this range.
Mm-hmm.
It's a developmental range that occurs for most of us uh in with a certain kind of education. It we go through this kind of more external identity to a deeper internal individuation.
Mm-hmm.
And also across adults you see this range. um, but that individuation is essential for us to regain
Mm-hmm.
this recognition of our being not separate.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to cognize
Yeah.
what happens in meditation, not meaning to think while we're meditating,
Yeah.
but to recognize that in the opening of consciousness, that this field of openness, this space of openness is not my own, but actually it is something that we share. To realize that as in one's experience and recognize the significance of what it means cognitively
Mm-hmm.
is a higher level of individuation than the one that is purely self-focused.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what I'm referring to is not about going back to some kind of group mind or some kind of group think or being part of a we all do the same thing,
Yeah. Like being in the hockey team, football
Yeah,
team, or
right. We're one here,
mm-hmm.
but we're all just we're not individuals.
Yes.
Um, that what I'm speaking about is something that calls for our capacity to be able to be aware of more subtle dimensions of our being, of
Mm-hmm.
our of who we are. Part of what comes online with individuation is being aware of one's emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've met adults, probably maybe in other generations, or young people
Yeah.
who are not aware of their feelings. And that's often what psychotherapy does. Get in touch with, what is this like feeling?
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry, and it's like, okay, that's it. Connect with it, that become conscious of it, then you can be responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this whole process of interior development, of psychological development, is incredibly important. And then what I'm suggesting is a next step is to be able to choose where one places one's focus. Am I going to stay focused in my own internal process, or am I going to be able to hold that
Mm-hmm.
within the subtlety of the field of connection that lives between us? And that's what our dialogue work, which we call emergent dialogue, is working towards. And the meditation practice ends up being a very powerful exercise and learning space to be able to set aside the demands of the mind, or that voice in your head that says, I don't know, I mean, does she like me? Or yeah, everything that person does just irritates me, or whatever it is that it is going on, about self-doubt, about projection onto others, or whatever, that we can just put that aside and actually make decisions and creatively engage from a different part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I
And
think this is a very important point where you say we have to engage, and I think that there's a sense that this dialogue practice that you're bringing is a first step towards engagement. You are actively relating then to someone.
yeah,
Um, how do we, or how can we marry this with our living environment? You have those practice circles and dialogue exercise and everything. How do you see maybe on a bigger picture or level how we can create and continue to create these kind of practices around us with others? I don't know if my question makes sense, but
I hear two things in it, Renaud.
yeah,
I hear one, how do I bring this to my life? Or how does this change my life? Or how do I work as a change agent from
yeah,
this perspective?
exactly.
And the other is, how does culture change?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think that when you are grounded in something different and are able to hold this openness in different contexts, there is a ripple effect. People change. I mean, I hear from people who are practicing or learning to practice emergent dialogue all the time. It's like I make this shift. I've gone into my workplace where their meetings are like people are all, chewing on each other, and I come in this different place, and then things start to change, and I don't know why.
Mm.
And it's because we are connected.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm feeling connected. It's that we are connected. If I come at you with aggression and separation and whatever, it's like you have a response to that. It disturbs your field. It disturbs something in your being, because it's you're feeling the fragmentation and separation. um it's I've been thinking lately, there's all this talk about mirror neurons, that the reason why we are able to be empathic is because we have these neurons that so as if there's nothing else to it, or that anything in relationship is projection. And it's like, that's just not true.
Mm.
That's not true. We are already related. We are already connected. And that's fundamental. We are just at the point where we're able to experience that and hold that in awareness.
Mm.
And holding it in awareness makes it much easier to act from that truth,
Yes.
than when it's just an idea in our head. So I mean, emergent dialogue is to develop the actual sensing capacity and awareness to be able to hold this non-separation in life together.
Mm.
And not to say, oh, I know we're all one, but I'm me and you're you. Yeah. And of course I'm me and you're you.
Yeah.
And even in what I'm talking about, you're going to be you and I'm going to be me. But what is it that we actually share?
Yeah.
What is it that we actually are in together? That's what we're looking at. And so then one can take that anywhere.
Yes.
But getting back to the other question, we don't know how culture changes.
Mm.
We have no idea. All the activists are like, okay, we pound on this, and or whatever, or the French Revolution. It's like, okay, if you're willing to storm, the king's chamber and cut his head off, then you change things. Well, no, that doesn't seem to be the way things change. The cognitive scientist, he's from Toronto, Jean Vervecke.
Yeah.
He says that, yeah, he's amazing. He says that his reading of culture change is that it's not it's not by trying to take on the structures that change. What happens is you get, if a small group of people or small groups of people come together in something that is more alive,
Mm.
more exciting, more creative, has more potential, has more meaning than what is there in the rest of culture, that very quickly these small groups will become attractors and attract others, and then from the bottom up,
Mm-hmm.
things change.
Yeah.
And I think that seems accurate to me. If you look at the Axial Age and the birth of the great religions, if you look at what happened with Christianity in Rome,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, there are a lot of analyses about the economics and da 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 and so forth, but fundamentally, there was something that alarmed and intrigued and blew away the Romans. It's like, why are these people in ecstasy as they're being killed?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What are they on? You know,
It's very interesting. I'm sorry, I don't know if you wanted to add
well, I
something.
just wanted just to wrap that up,
Yeah.
that it's there's a contagion, and we see that with our work, which is often called we space work,
Hmm.
that there is a hunger
Yeah.
in these progressive, uh yeah, with you know uh which gen is it, uh, the millennials,
Yeah.
you see a hunger for co-working, co-living, we space, you
Definitely.
know, more intimate conversation. How do we circling?
Hmm.
That these are all practices or things that are very related to what we're talking about in emergent dialogue.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the recognition, I we cannot do this as individuals. There's some new way that we have to come together. That's something that's rippling across the edge of culture. That's not an accident.
Yeah.
That's because this potentiality wants expression through us.
It seems that there's a like in meditation, you sit and you have the ideas, your mind is going, and you choose not to focus on it, to let it
That's
be.
right.
And what you're talking about is what is on the edge of culture. I think more we awaken, more we can choose where we want to put our attention on. And I
Right.
remember a teacher, I can't remember who it is, I think it's Jeff Carrera, who said, imagine we have learned in history, actually we know from history only from um, war. History, or our history, is also always related to war,
Mm,
culture in war, the French Revolution, this and that.
right.
It's always about war. And he said, imagine what would it be if we would find out, or try to find out, groups that came together and where new ideas emerge. What if our past, or we would, yeah, put our intention on that? I would be very curious, just as as curiosity. Where does those idea came from? Which group gave birth to this and that group and that group?
Mm,
Where would it take us?
mm,
Where would,
yeah.
on
Mm,
a personal level, or just human beings, where would it take us,
yeah,
by putting the attention on something completely different
right.
than separation, because war is
Right.
separation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really cool question. And
Hmm.
I would direct you to Gary Lockman's work.
Okay.
Gary Lockman has written all these amazing books about these small groups of people who had huge impact.
Yeah.
And like the group around C.G. Young,
Yeah.
or Rudolf Steiner,
Right.
how new ideas came into the culture through. I mean, this is the Margaret Mead quote, right? Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world, because that's all that ever has
Yeah.
changed the
Yeah.
world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but it requires one to think in a different way. You can't think in our atomistic separate way.
Hmm.
Like, okay, well then if I have two people and then I get four and then those four get three more, it's not it's there's a contagion effect of, I would call it, new forms of love.
Hmm.
And I think that what it is that moves people and transforms people are openings to new forms of love. And I think that's what happened with the birth of Christianity.
Yeah. Or just the
People,
example from your retreat, from this deep love between Clara and Francis.
Princess, yeah,
It's beyond the romantic
yes,
love that we know
right,
of, and then we're still very much related to
yeah,
in our culture, actually.
But romantic love was a fiery new thing also, starting with the
Yeah.
starting with the troubadours and uh, in the whole ideal of courtly love, but the love between individuals and the selection of one's own mate.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge revolution. Marriage for love was a revolution.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, it
I
didn't
didn't know.
exist. It
Yeah.
didn't exist before. When is it? The really in the 18th century. 18th, 17th century,
That's
somewhere
so
around there.
young. Oh. Oh, I
You
didn't know.
know, I mean, there are ancient love poems and so forth, but the distinction between love and lust
Mm-hmm.
is very unclear in much of in much of early literature. The longing for some woman. It usually is.
Right.
It's a man writing about his
Right.
longing for some woman.
Right.
That is, it's not clear what does that mean. I mean, this was also something that I was skeptical of as a teenager. Watching these movies that from my parents' generation, where in a hour and 15-minute movie, they meet. It's like they fall in love, and it's like, why you don't even know him. He's going to turn out to be to hit you. You don't even know this guy. Sorry, my voice is starting to get raspy. um but it's like, what, or that film, like Water for Chocolate. People were like, oh my,
Mm. Yeah.
so romantic. And it's like, it's crazy. They're all nuts. It's like, I saw you across a room, and now I'm willing to like burn the entire
Mm.
world down
Yeah.
just because I want to consummate my sexual desire for you. Is that love? What is that?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
um
I guess
that
it seems that it's also part of this individuation,
yes,
to get,
yes, I
yeah,
think that's a really good point, Manal.
yeah,
Yeah, the individuation, the desiring, another person, being in a relationship with that person, coming to know them, deciding to be
right,
with them for the rest of your life. That was a revolution.
yeah.
That was a revolution.
And
So
how do you see this individuation process to come, to come to an end, so to speak, to be able to make the next step for us human beings,
I think because if you look at what's going on with men and women in our culture.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a war going on.
Yeah,
And look at what's going on with gender.
yeah,
It's like young people are going like, I don't know if I want to be either of these things.
hmm,
I
hmm,
don't know that either one seems to be a good bargain. This is like really
yeah,
not good. And that impulse, I think, is a smart is an intelligence of something
uh-huh,
else.
yeah.
And I think that's why I think this, when you realize that realize when you realize that this this field of non-separation is a field of love,
Mm,
and that it is, you don't have to be somebody
yeah,
to have it. It's your birthright.
yeah,
It's actually the ground of who we are. It's the ground of creation. It's the ground of life, is love. And this is here,
mm,
and it's here for you, and you are part of it, and together we can make a world from this. That is more attractive than
mm,
some romantic fling
yes, yeah. This
that
is
I do
so
for
beautiful.
myself.
I mean, I hope that every young people can hear that. We all go through, this adolescence period where, yeah, it's not an easy time, and you have to find yourself. But it would, I also hope and wish that this awakening, this, what you're talking about, this, yeah, love that can change, yeah, the path for us humans, from an adolescence to adulthood. in a much softer, more inclusive, more, yeah, yeah, gentle and loving actually
Mm,
for all the
yeah.
young people.
Well, and then going back to what I said originally
Yeah.
about learning about psychology, that kids grow up in the world that we create. If we can create, uh, uh, in German they call it biotopes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if we can
Yeah.
create small environments that are experiments in new ways of living, and make this available to young people, and also it's uh, I said it has a contagion effect, and it's also we speak about consciousness as being non-local.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then there are all those interesting physics experiments that show that you turn it's the electron spins this way and you flip it, and then the one over there spins that. You know, it's like
Yeah.
woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, these are all freaky things, but
Look. Yeah.
it does seem to work.
Mm-hmm.
That that I mean, it's so remarkable to me how many millennials are tuned into this.
Wow.
You know, they're tuned into it. They um, and yet they are also going to have to go through an individuation process
Mm-hmm.
in order to actually be in it as fully as an adult. But what happens if the world the world of adults holds this
Yeah.
space open? Then you can move through. This is my hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but then one can move through that individuation, and I'm me, and I've
Yeah.
got, you know, I'm myself, and I'm whatever. That separate individuation, you can move through that quicker because
Mm-hmm.
it's porous to the field of love and the field of connection. So you never are individuating in that kind of broken or fragmented way
Yeah.
that we have now.
So actually, we should we should have meditation in every school actually,
Yes.
and yeah, to learn to sit in that ground and get to know, yeah, there is something bigger actually,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic. It's amazing uh, to pass time together.
Yeah. Thank you, Manol.
Um, I maybe you, if you want to say a few words about your upcoming classes or the vigil, or please take a
Well,
moment. Yeah.
uh, well, lots of things are in motion and lots of
Yeah.
things are changing.
Okay.
um, right now, and we have a German magazine, a quarterly magazine called Evolve. Um, we do we except for COVID, we are trying to do conferences every other year on, and the magazine is about the relationship between consciousness and culture. You know, what is it that if we shift consciousness could change in culture, in economics,
Mm-hmm.
in uh, uh, in terms of the environment, and you know, we look at all different current issues, and the you know, the roots of them. Um, and and then we have One World in Dialogue, which has been our international work, which includes One World Bearing Witness, which you mentioned, which will be this year, December 4th and 5th. And we'll have an amazing group of spiritual teachers, all focused on the creative capacity of Earth,
Mm.
and leading us in ritual, in meditation, in prayer, to acknowledge the extraordinary regenerative capacity, creative capacity of of Earth and all of us Earth creatures.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm.
But we're planning to bring together all of our work, and into one new website that will be called Evolve World.
Oh wow, I heard a little bit about this. It sounds
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to provide English translations, or the a lot of the interviews that we do for the magazine are done in English and then translated into German. We're going to make the
Oh,
English available.
oh, that would be
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and and all our teaching is sort of divided up into German and English in different places, and we're going to bring that all together. And we will probably be offering, we're going to be offering a new emergent dialogue course, probably starting at the end of October, beginning of November. And yeah, that
Fantastic.
we're
So that's great. I will, at the end of this recording, this video, we will put up all the links. So if people
great,
are interested, they can visit your work and get some more information for them to join you. Yeah.
great.
Again, thank you very much for
You're very
this
welcome.
time.
It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.